Welcome back to the call for all men. It's good to be back, and we are excited about today's podcast. It's been something that we've been dreaming about and hoping for a while, and we have a very special guest in the Upper Room Studios. And
the man, the myth, and the legend.
That's right, Mr. Spring Legion himself, Hunter Fury. We're so glad to have you, Hunter.
Well, I appreciate you having me.
Well, we were hoping that this day would be a little bit different, and a little bit better. We went out this morning and to public land, private land, and tried our best to harvest a bird, and they just whooped us today.
Yeah,
and that's all there was to it. Scott was over there, and he had all the action, but he had took almost like an army style shotgun with him, and thought I didn't know what he was bringing, why he was carrying that thing through the woods. I thought, man, that's insane. But yeah, it's good to be back. We had a special guest last week, Bailey Whittle, and that should have dropped. Is it dropped already, Scott?
Yeah, it dropped this morning.
Okay, it dropped this morning, and this is a non-profit kind of thing. We usually have questions. We usually have a lot of things to talk about, but we're kind of like the call room with Cy Robertson and all them. We don't have any kind of script. Yeah. And so, well, it's good to be in here. And so let's just get right into it. And since we've got this being the call, and no doubt Hunter's been called to the Turkey Woods. And Hunter, can you just give us a little bit of background of how you got to where you are?
Yeah, sure. Again, appreciate you having me on, and absolutely have been called to the Turkey Woods, and kind of whatever happens in them is not up to me. Try my best to get on turkeys, and if I see them, I kill them. But sometimes that ain't the case, and today was one of those days. But I've always been drawn to the Spring Woods. I was a big turkey hunter, and I am from Mississippi, where turkey hunting is more of a culture than it is a community, and it's near religion to some folks. I don't know if it's a good or bad thing, but it's taken very seriously where I grew up at, and to be a turkey hunter was a big deal. A lot of folks hunt a lot of things, but if somebody introduced you with the identity of a turkey hunter, you were kind of cut from a different cloth, and everybody kind of knew it. And in a ever-evolving world and digital age, I had a feeling that would kind of get lost. So that's when Spring Legion came about in 2019 to kind of highlight the heritages and traditions and all the other things that kind of make Southern turkey hunting what it is, and actually resonated with a lot more people than I thought it would, as it has grown exponentially since then. And it's been a lot of fun, but yeah, it's centered around turkey hunting, and we do a lot of things about turkey hunting, from gear and apparel to podcasts and the occasional YouTube hunt. It's flying by the seat of our pants, but it's been a fun ride, and the best part is I get to turkey hunt and meet a lot of folks for the majority of the spring.
Now, did you start that while you were in college, or was it when you got out of college?
I was out of college. As soon as I left college, I moved to New Orleans, worked in a grain elevator, built a bunch of rail cars and barges, and there was no turkey south of Pontchartrain, and I got tired of driving 3 hours to listen every morning, so in the middle of February I quit and moved back to Mississippi to work for a chicken farm company. And that allowed me a little bit of leeway as far as the mornings went. And then one morning came and they wouldn't let me go hunt. And it was a good morning. And I said, okay, I probably ain't gonna see you tomorrow. And I didn't. And I didn't hear nothing that day, but they didn't take me back.
So was that kind of was like a Johnny Paycheck kind of day? Take the job and shove it.
Yeah, except I didn't really tell them.
You just ghosted. That's before Ghost was ghosted.
Yeah.
And so
they got the gist when I came back the next day. The truck was a lot cleaner when I pulled in than it was when I last saw them. They're like, "Yeah, I got to be on and know what this is about." And I'm like, "Yep, I got to go." And I just started making a couple hats. I lived in a very beat up, rundown trailer with my brother. We had no internet, so that was the first hurdle we had to figure out, how to start an online business without internet. So got past that, got a 14-day free trial on Shopify, and if I didn't figure out how to sell something in 14 days, I don't know what I was gonna do. I was gonna do something different. But we did. We sold a hat, and of course I don't think Chase knew what I was doing at the time. I didn't really tell him, just in case. I didn't tell anybody really for like a whole year. In 2019, that's kind of year zero, and so my buddy Austin Seals, his mom had a embroidery machine, so I'd go over to his house and go to their guest bedroom, and we tried to figure out how to work that, and we did, and sold a few hats that year, and then got selling some t-shirts and stuff like that. And this went on for about a year or so while I was still doing both jobs, and then finally, like I said, 148-degree warning. When bare mesh pressure was like 30.9, I was like, yeah, I can't be placing chicks on a morning like this anymore. So and it's been it's been up from there. So it kind of took, which is a blessing, but it's been fun.
And you've written a couple of books, and so where did the name Spring Legion come? I mean, is it just something that?
Yeah, some of it that was the first name I wanted to name it, and the domain was available, and the names are symmetrical, so it's not going to go over the seam of a hat, because that was the only thing we had in mind was to make a hat. And but the main thing was to have the word Legion in it, and a kind of a pseudo purpose to that would be for folks to ask about it and give you the opportunity to tell them about the 10th Legion, which is the book by Colonel Tom Kelly. Yeah. That would really explain everything that the hat would try to explain, or that the philosophy behind the brand would try to explain. If they read that, they'll understand completely. And some folks read it and resonate with it like they're talking to themselves, and some folks have no idea what's going on, and that's kind of the fine line is right there. So it speaks to a lot of folks who are cut from the cloth we are, and folks who hear the word Legion, they know exactly what it means and know the connection there, and then folks who don't, they have the opportunity to learn, and that happens more often than folks would think. That they've been turkey hunting forever and have never heard of the 10th Legion, and they read it and like, oh my God, this is awesome. Like, yeah, it's turkey hunting, and then the spring part too, because I like the season of spring as much as I like turkey hunting, so I've always liked kind of the rebirth of spring and stuff like that, and I get just as amped about crisp, cool mornings and birds that haven't heard all in the past 9 months when I hear them, or I was riding with Chase down in Mobile, Alabama, probably late February, and some bugs started hitting the windshield. I started getting really pumped up because that means spring's coming along. And I was probably more pumped about that than I would have been the first turkey couple I heard. So so I'm easing into the home stretch of spring, which is when I start getting a little depressive.
It's kind of, I guess, your guys talk about duck depression.
Yeah.
The big duck hunters. So I imagine that's the same for turkey hunters, especially on your caliber. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's turkey hunters and then there's hunter, mm-hmm. And I mean, they take it to a whole different level, and like you said, that's your life. I mean, it's become your life, and so
there's nothing else I want to do than turkey hunting. I was telling my buddy Gary Stan, we went out to California and we both shot one, and it was not even 7 o'clock yet, and I'm way more sad than I am happy. Like, so we can't even go turkey hunting today anymore. Like, we have to.
It's over. Yeah.
We're in California and go to vineyards and stuff, and I'm like, what are we gonna do? I mean, we can't even make it to Oregon in time to get back for our flight. It's a whole day wasted now. Can't even go take I did not want to kill one that fast. I wanted it to be a lot longer.
So take note, Scott. You're planning a trip to Tennessee. You don't want that 7:30 shot.
I know. He wants it to be. He wants it to be dragged.
He wants to do what we did today and chase that thing. Take a lunch break, come back, chase it for another 3 hours.
Eat it the whole day.
Yeah, and so, it was fun this morning. Just watching you and how you turkey hunt. I mean, I was telling your wife, because she was with us this morning. She hunted with us the first part, and I was like, just watching you do what you do is amazing. And I don't get starstruck much, but Scott told me, he's like, hey man, I've got Hunter. Hunter may be coming on this. He said he coming in on like Thursday. I was like, man, I'm going out of town Friday. I won't be back till Sunday afternoon. He said He said,
I'm
well,
stalling. I'm
Yeah.
stalling. I'm doing everything to stall. I'm
Brought in
stalling.
some rain and everything.
yeah, I was like, please, man, just make sure he's here, you know. And Scott texted me, he's like, I worked it out Monday, or he called me and said, we've worked it out. He's gonna stay and hunt. And so, but I just, you know, it's cool. Like I said, I don't get starstruck with a lot of people, but I do with hunters that I look up to, and I know I'm a lot older than you, but I look up to just how you've grown, your growth. I mean, just watching you over the last several years when I first met you, and seeing where you started, and hearing your story, reading your books. I mean, I read your book every night before I went to sleep, you know. And I was probably that stalker because I was sending you crap, you know, all the time on Instagram, like, hey man,
Yeah, you're the one that's been ghosted now.
like we were buddies, you know. I was like, hey man, you know, what's up? But you know, and so, but getting back to the books, what inspired you to write those? I mean, just and tell us the process of writing a book on those calibers. They really are good. I mean, probably some of the best. Right up there with Colonel Tom. I mean, really, that's how great they are.
I appreciate it, and it's odd hearing that, you know, from a lot of folks that compare it to. I'm like, well, that's how I learned. That's one of the books I've ever read, really. Made C's in English and comp and all that stuff. So
Me too.
yeah, I mean, I didn't even get. That's when my friend Pate edited it, and that's just because he got an honors English and I couldn't even make it in it. So I don't even know if he had an A in it, but he made the cut.
Listen, I have folks ask me all the time, Hunter, did you have to take English 101 in college? I was like, yeah, man, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I took it. I just didn't do well.
I passed by the skin of my teeth. I promise.
But no, I was sitting at home. I actually got here
Gotta hang on to the train. The train's coming. It always comes.
That's right.
It's just the turkey that y'all didn't get today. It's
Yeah.
coming back.
We heard trains, we heard dogs, we heard horses. Hunter had this crazy experience with a button buck.
Yeah.
They come up and try to bite him, then try to fight him.
I was like, all right. And that was when the turkey was at its closest point.
Oh, it was right there. I mean, it was.
So I'm trying to do this discreetly, like, do I just sacrifice my elbow to this turkey? Because he ain't far, and he was 50 yards at that point.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Which makes me wonder, was he in the open when I'm having to turn around and kick this deer? Or
And that's what I was afraid of, that maybe he'd seen us.
Yeah.
You know, and I was laughing. I couldn't help but laugh.
I was too.
Because it was coming, it came right to Hunter and started nibbling on his elbow, and I was like, "Oh crap!"
And then you start texting me, and I said, I hope that thing doesn't beat both of y'all's
He
butts.
started lifting his ball a couple times. I'm like, no, I'm not ball.
Hunter picks his stick up. He's trying to hit him with his
You
gun.
need a shirt. I told Stacy, if there's anything, you take an opportunity, there needs to be a spring-leaf shirt dedicated to the deer that tried to kick your butt in the woods. That's it.
Cost me a turkey.
Cost me a
probably.
turkey.
I've not got a turkey on a lot of accounts. That might be the first.
That was crazy. I'd seen the deer coming from behind us.
Yeah.
And so I was like,
This is cool.
I kind of went, got Hunter's attention, and that deer came straight to Hunter.
Okay. Oh, there he is.
Yeah.
He was looking for me.
Yeah.
But no, I got COVID in 2020, and like I said, I've always been big on the traditions and the old school, train of thought, especially that's relation with turkey hunting, and kind of in the same vein as Colonel Tom Kelly's kind of wordage and the way he kind of goes about his explaining and stuff. He's a much better writer than I am. He also reads like Shakespeare every day, still at 90-something years old, and he's written like 60 books at least, probably, that are all better than my two. But that's what that's the books I read, and that's the ones I resonated with. So I'm sure some of our trains of thoughts kind of go in that same vein. But he is the best probably of all time. In my opinion, he'll always be the best writer.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not just because I'm turkey hunter, but no, I got COVID, and I've always kind of had the idea of if it ever comes down to where there's a time, and that's kind of why Spring Legion itself was created, was to kind of make sure there was a bridge there between generations, so to speak, and then this would also kind of be that purpose of if ink and paper start losing value quickly, I would like to try to write a book to make sure there's something there. Maybe somebody younger than me who's better writing can pick it up, but you make sure it doesn't, that line doesn't get cut in half, and nobody can pick it back up, and everything's digital, everything's audio, and everything. And then we have podcasts and stuff, so we still do stuff like that. I just want to make sure that ink and paper fizzle out in time with media and everything. But when I sat down and just started writing some stuff, and really I had COVID, like I said, and I was quarantined for 2 weeks, and I'm up on my desk, and I don't sit still very well. I'm not good at doing nothing, so I just got to fidgeting enough to where I started, I'm gonna write a book today. And I started writing it, and it was a lot of stuff, just stuff I wanted to say, and stuff I wanted folks to have on record and on hand. If something were to happen to me, and they'd at least know what I thought, and which books are the only way to really get thoughts on, display for other folks. It's hard to do that in even the audio space, and even in the video space, really. You just can't tap into people's minds as well as you can with books. But got to writing, and then I had no idea how to write a book, and much less how to publish it and edit it, and copyright it, stuff, and ISBNs and registrations and all that good stuff. But figured that out, and a lot of that was with a ruler and some other books. So I just see how far I needed to space, tab to make it a square, get the page numbers on the bottom, and then I had to figure out. Hardest thing was realizing that the odd numbers are actually on the right and the even numbers are on the left. Instead of start with 1 and go to 2, it goes 1, flip 2. So I had to redo a lot of that, but it was a lot of trial and error and a lot of stuff like that. And pretty much it was all typed on Word on my college computer and formatted to be whatever how big the book is. And then, like I said, my buddy Pate, who took honors English, a little smarter than me, he edited it, and I corrected some, and I'm like, Pate, I can slide. That's all right. People will get it, and kind of rode with what we had. And then I tried to publish it on Amazon after doing all the registration stuff, and I was trying to get a proof of it because my buddy Mason Happy, his dad has a printing press, and he printed me some samples, but they weren't quite what was going to be actually published. And then, so as I'm trying to get it from Amazon, I accidentally submitted it for review, and it got approved one night and released, and then I woke up and it was a bestseller on Amazon. And folks were telling me how they got my book, and I'm like, well, can you send me one? Because I don't have any yet. I'd like to get one if I can, because just to check, make sure, I don't know what y'all are about to get, but.
That's cool. That is.
But no, it's done really well.
Now, do you have any other books that you're thinking about writing in the future?
So you have 2 books, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's the titles of those books?
Ballad of Turkey Hunter is the first one, then Any Given Spring Morning is the second one.
Yeah.
And then I don't know about book number 3.
Stacy, there's hope for you. You could be in a chapter of that thing.
Yeah, could be.
Coming.
Listen, I'm just honored to be
There's
here. I was honored to share the turkey woods with Hunter this morning, and
it was fun.
And so, like I text my boys early. I was like, guess who I'm hunting with this morning, because they're my boys, and I love what you said just now about passing on to the next generation. This is what this whole thing's about, the call. And my boys look up to you so much. I mean, they really do. They're like, it's kind of like, well, you're like the boy band, and so they
well, they're good dudes.
Yeah, and so and it just them. It's a lot of young guys look up to. And I know you see that. I'm sure at the NWTF when you got your booth and kids come in there, young guys come in there, and you're a good person for them to look up to. I believe that with all my heart. You're a very humble person. You're very you're very work oriented. You're family oriented. I mean, just nice. I told my boys, if you're going to look up to somebody, Hunter's a good one to look up to.
I appreciate it.
And so I feel that completely, and I don't really know you, very, very well, but just looking at you and following your stuff. So let's do this, Scott. If you could hunt anywhere in the world, turkey-wise, where would you hunt, Hunter? Mississippi.
Yeah.
Is that because of the stories or just the tradition of it?
Nah, it's home. So I mean, when I think of turkey hunting, I think of how Mississippi smells in March, and it's just I think of chalk white heads and wide open river bottoms and pine thickets and stuff. It's hard to hunt turkeys in Mississippi. Today's turkey acts a lot like Mississippi turkey. Very, very stubborn. There's nothing you can make them do. They've all been hunted since probably February, and it's just they know everybody's playbook, and it's just very difficult to get. And the terrain is what makes it probably more challenging than anywhere. Like I love pretty woods. Like what we were hunting was wide open pretty, but imagine a thicket, trying to do all that in a thicket, and you can only see 15 yards for most spots, and you can only see 10, and then all of a sudden it opens up, you see 70, and he's in that, and you got to somehow get there, and they're just, the pressure in Mississippi, there's so many turkey hunters in Mississippi.
That's what I was going to ask, because, as far as the population of turkey hunters is probably way more than here.
At least 1 to 1.
Yeah.
Turkey hunters to turkeys, so a lot of times there's more turkey hunters than there are turkeys, so I mean, they get pressure pretty good, and they're just very slick. I mean, they'll fly up in trees to see you at 70 yards. They don't walk 70 yards. They fly up and look at you 70 yards and fly back down. And they're kind of smart alecks about it. They're like, yeah, I know what you're trying to do. I don't care if it's opening day. I remember last year, and somebody tries to open your last week and do exactly what you're doing. They're very very slick. But some of them work right. But when I think of turkey hunting, I think of Mississippi in March. It goes from March to July real quick, so there is no April or May in Mississippi, I'm convinced. It's February, March for about a week, 10 days or so. Those 10 days, that's what I think of. And then after that 10 days, it turns to June and July and August before April really even rolls around.
Now, are you picking, I know with your business and you're trying to get to multiple states and hunt different things, I assume that's a scheduling nightmare.
Yes, and I just throw my hands up for the most part. That trip to California we had planned, but other than that, it's really just had directions. So how I got here, I went hunting with a buddy in Arkansas. I left my house at 4 o'clock. I don't know when, and Peyton's learned, my wife learned. I don't know where I'm going, so it's not like I'm not telling you or not telling anybody. I really don't. I'm getting on 55. Headed towards Tennessee, because I mean there ain't nothing below us, so I got to go up, and then I'll go up, and then Arkansas, Missouri, to Kentucky, to down to here, and then I'll probably go back through Tennessee and probably like Virginia or something. But I got to pass a couple places to get Virginia, so who knows? I might get to North Carolina and go up the East Coast and never even think about going back towards Missouri or anything like that. But I'm really just chasing where turkeys are able to be hunted, so to speak. And I've learned to look at the weather a lot. And now I'm starting to look at the cutoff times, because I don't like the 1 p.m. cutoff states. That's kind of gotten in the way of past a few days. So it was nice to at least go back after lunch and get on another turkey, because that hadn't been the case 2 or 3 times I hunted before getting back down here.
So so far this year, where have you harvested birds this year? What states have you harvested birds in this year?
Mississippi. Well, I shot one in Georgia. Let's see, Mississippi, Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky, California. Might be it. I don't know.
And I know you said you don't have a clue where you're headed, and so
it's actually pretty nice.
That's a gypsy kind of turkey lifestyle. Just go.
It really is.
So do you have? I know you did. I know I just said you have no idea, but do you have a destination, like as far as I'm leaving Georgia and heading?
I want to go to Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So I've never hunted in Pennsylvania. I've always liked Pennsylvania, just because it's also rich. When I think of Mississippi, Alabama is right there with it, but it is a little different in Mississippi. I think they got a little more turkeys in Alabama. Not as much turkey hunters. I always make sure to say that. So folks go to Alabama, not Mississippi.
Stay out of Mississippi.
They're a little easier over there, and the turkey hunters are not as often. But now Pennsylvania actually has, I think, more turkey hunters per capita than anywhere, which makes me know our records are flawed in Mississippi, because I think everybody is a turkey hunter in Mississippi. But
that's what I thought. I thought mamas, babies.
They are, yeah. I mean, Peyton is. She knows more than a lot of folks do about
let me just start with that. I enjoyed watching Hunter and Peyton hunt this morning, because they're like they just read each other. He's doing this. He's giving her signs to crawl under a log, and
she's good at it. I mean, I was surprised last year.
I was surprised. I mean, really, I was like, dude, she is a hunter, man. She was down crawling, and then she crawled up the bank. She's sitting there on the bank waiting for this bird to come in, and it was cool watching them team up, or just team, and him giving the play. Like,
I got a couple of pictures of him. He didn't realize I was taking photos this morning, which was. It looked like a set of generals deciding where they were going to go. I was laughing. I actually got a cool picture. I was going to try to get that thing framed for you guys, because I thought it was cool this morning.
Yeah, that's how it was.
That's a good job.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, and you know, she was.
That has to also make it, I'm going to say this, having something that you can do with your family, I think brings it on home too. That's the thing, because we were having this conversation before we got on the show, and for you guys that didn't know it, this is the first time I've probably been turkey hunting in probably 20 years, right? I said that I used to be, back in the early 90s, I was an avid, I mean, I did nothing but turkey hunt. And the turkey population was nothing even like it is today. I mean, it was rough. I mean, and you had to, we used to joke about it when they would produce calls. I would never use that call, right? I would try to find a call that was at I mean, you'd go in and find a Quaker Boy call that was in a gas station that it like it was dusty from 10 years, and I'd grab that one because that would be one that they'd never hear.
Yeah.
And me and Peyton were talking this morning. I said, you know, people don't realize how elusive they are, and I always say this, with their eyesight and their hearing, and if they can smell you, I honestly don't think that you would ever kill one. I mean, they're that smart of an animal. And for me, I was telling the story to them even when they got back. I said the first thing that I did is it brought back all this adrenaline rush, right? And before I could even get in the truck, because I had to leave, I had a guy that I had to meet. I couldn't stay with him the last part of it. And I'm on the phone with, I was telling Hunter, I said, my mentor, he was the guy that taught me how to hunt. He was the guy that really got me involved in turkey hunting. And he's a lot older. He's not in really the great physical condition now. And I was giving him play-by-play, right? I was giving him everything that we had done this morning. He said, oh, Bubba, talk to me. He said, tell me, Bubba, tell me what's going on. And I said, I would throw this. He said, oh, I throw it twice. I throw it twice. And, you know, I had him so fired up. I could hear his wife. He said, you're gonna have a heart attack. You're getting so excited. But he and I have that same kind of, just that same rapport, and it comes back flooding that you remember those memories and things that you do, and it's a special time, right? Nobody gets it until you're out there doing it. And I was joking with him because these two, they were all in the woods, and I went out to watch this field, and we were laughing. I said, I had one come by, I could have grabbed that thing by the neck, and we were laughing. I was telling my buddy Ronnie, I was like, what would you have done? Yeah, I said, would you have done anything different? He said, oh no, I've done the same thing, Bubba. He said, where was your help? I said, I couldn't get him. I said, I was texting them on the thing. I said, they just left me down here abandoned. I said, I was between a nap and trying to resonate on them down here. And he said, it reminds me of the old days. And those are the things we had a phrase that we call running and gunning, right? That was our thing, because sometimes, and maybe it's unethical at the time, but you would hunt all season long, right? And they would not answer any call. I mean, it would be like anything else, and we would absolutely try to head them off at ambush, and that was the only way that you would get some of them. And I would always laugh because, I mean, I can remember crawling, 500 yards on my belly, trying to get close enough to one while they're drumming, and just to get close enough to get a shot on them. And it's not easy, right? And we were laughing because the week before we were taking the place where we were hunting Vince comes out in his pajamas and shoots two, and he calls instead of on. He goes, "This ain't hard. I don't know what to do." And I said, "Dude, you just got two lucky things, because this is not that easy."
That's how it always happens. That's the other side of turkey hunting is the voodoo side that I hit on a lot in our podcast. Right now, I'm in one of those slumps that is very expected. It happens this time every year, and Peyton's learned. Peyton's never been with me when I'm in one. I've always been off, and it's all by the time I do get back. She's somehow timed me to come to a wedding in the middle of it. It's not going to be good. And it's just, there's nothing you can do about it. You're like a
who plans a wedding during turkey season?
It's somebody that doesn't turkey hunt. I can tell you that.
So I wasn't too happy, and just stuff starts snowballing. I had to leave this state early to get to this one, and then now I can hunt past one on this one. And usually if I kill one, it's a lot of times it's the second morning. Once I figure it out, but then you can't hunt past one on this morning, so I didn't really able to figure it out. So that I didn't figure it out about 10 o'clock the next morning, and then I had to leave even earlier to get to Kentucky because I couldn't stay there, or I wanted to make it to the wedding, and then I had to leave Kentucky early. You can hunt past one in Kentucky, but I had to leave at 8 in Kentucky to get here. And I'm just like, hey, we ain't doing much more, for a little while, because now I'm really ruffled, and it's just you start changing what you would do, and had the past day or so not even happened if I hadn't left and just got there for one day. The feathers weren't ruffled and you weren't stressed. Probably would have killed one at 9 o'clock easily. It's just you start changing what you do, and you get so that voodoo gets on you, and you you should kill them, but you don't, and something happens, and then a deer bites you, stuff just starts happening, and you're like, I can't catch a break, and then sometimes you go around the porch and it's like sitting there waiting for you to shoot it, and you're like, I earned you. Yeah, I earned you last month.
Exactly.
I was due for one, so I'm ready. And that's what I tell a lot of folks is when they go through them. And I got a chapter in the first book. It's probably everybody's favorite chapter. A bird 183 times. I learned way more hunting one bird than I did. A lot of stuff that I've consumed with my eyes or ears or whatever. Just being out there and learning from birds, and that one was very, very, very smart and very educated, and he expected me to be there every morning. And I was there every morning. That's why I quit jobs over and did all this stuff. And I'm like, I'm consumed by an animal that knows everything I got. And finally, and that was, it was a very, very, very odd feeling to shoot him. And the woods, I'd never heard the woods that quiet before. It was just very empty. There's only one in there, and I was, it's just me and him every morning. I was like, what am I doing in the morning? Done this every day.
Sounds like Groundhog Day.
Yeah. And I was like, I don't know what to do anymore. So that's when I was like, this is kind of dangerous. The addiction side that comes with it, and all
I tell folks, it's like crack, man. It really is. And when it gets in you like that, that's why at one time I was going from state to state to state, And then, I understand your frustration because when you pay for those tags and you have to leave early or somebody calls you home or whatever, you mean Grandma died? What? And I'm just, I got to get back.
I told her.
I told her. I said, I was going to be in Tennessee a few more days. Hang in there.
Now, I did not know that about the 1 o'clock thing. Which states have that in place now, and why is that? Do you know?
Missouri does on public land. I think you can hunt all day on private land though in Missouri, but I was on public and had that stop at 1. There's stuff like here, Ohio or West Virginia you do, and New York maybe, and then there's some you can hunt on Sundays, and a lot of it I want to say Missouri's is that way. Their purpose was to not interrupt nesting hens.
I gotcha.
So to get folks out of the wood by the end, so they would be able to go to the nest and uninterrupted. I don't think they've been able to prove that's been effective.
Yeah. But
it's a lot harder to undo a rule that you thought was a good idea and made a bunch of people mad about than it is to admit, hey, I was wrong, go back.
Yeah, that is crazy.
But I don't know, and everything we do, we always keep the wild turkey first, and because we saw a dip in the population a couple years ago, and everybody got scared, and everybody was like, because the turkeys are such a fragile resource. The chances of an egg hatching and becoming a 2-year-old goblin turkey white with a long beard is less than 1%.
That's crazy.
So,
that's insane.
That's without a hunter. That's without human interaction at all. It's less than 1% of it, that egg becoming a goblin 2-year-old turkey, 2 springs from now. So just being able to see one still is a pretty big deal,
And you take that for granted because I lived in South Carolina for a while, and it was even lower there. It seemed like the turkey population 20-some years ago, and so we had 2 big farms that we hunted there, and to harvest one, people would come from miles just to see it. Like, oh, you got a turkey? I'm like, yeah,
can I touch it?
Yeah, can I see it? And so, but I was fortunate to have a banker in the church I was on staff at. That was a big hunter, and that's all he wanted to do was harvest a turkey. He's like, I got some in my field out here every day, and I said, let's go. And so, but yeah, it's the populations we got. It got really low here in Georgia. They even talked about canceling a season in Georgia. I know it was in the GON that way to get the population back up. But I think as far as predator hunting and things like that, that's not going on. And there's like you said. When those birds are they're trying to survive from limb to limb. Mm-hmm. When they leave that limb in the morning till they get back on that limb at night, they're that's why
trying to kill them.
That's all I'm trying to do. That's all I'm trying to do. And so, but they're like you said, if they could smell, you never would kill them because their instincts is just to survive. I've got to survive from this limb to the next limb, and so, but yeah. So, thinking back, I know you've probably got thousands of memorable hunts. What do you have one that just stands out in your mind, Hunter, that maybe is with your dad, or maybe is with somebody like a buddy, or is this one that it just resonates in your mind that you will take all the days of your life with you? And I'm sure, like I said, you probably got tons of great
memories. There's a lot. There's probably a lot that I'll never forget. That one, Killing Down the Gator Drive, that was a good one. There's no way to forget that one. And then, my first turkey was a good one, but one that probably my favorite hunt that I've been on was probably I was at Mississippi State, and it was the first time I shot on public land because I went the whole year before that out here in Gobble, and I spent the months in between the two seasons figuring out how to hunt public land and finding ways to get across creeks and get in the deep woods and figure out how that works. Because it's not a cakewalk, especially in Mississippi, especially near college now, where there's thousands of people trying to hunt the same plot.
So was it near the college
it was the closer ones I could get to. There's 2 or 3 around there. Within Asset Club, like an hour and a half. It's not down the road by all means, but it was closer than my house was. But the first time I got in there, and I remember I've been through so many just desperation sounds that I just made my mind believe were gobbles, just so I didn't feel like an idiot out there the year before. That we're just gonna pretend that was gobbling, just act like see if I get my heart rate up a little bit. And sometimes it worked. Maybe that was a turkey scratching.
Well, that's how it was this morning. They were quiet, and so we were on that ridge back there, and Hunter had went on up, a little bit beyond me and Peyton, and I just kept hearing them walk. I could hear them, and I was like, "Am I hearing things?" And I knew I wasn't hearing things. Then I thought I'd hear one spit. And I was like, "I just heard one." I told Peyton, "It's like I just heard one spit somewhere." And so then Hunter came back. He was over the ridge calling, and no doubt they were coming to his calling. And so we just kind of sat down on the edge of the ridge right there, and they were behind me, so I didn't know which way they were pointing. I thought they were pointing back toward, looking over the ridge, and I was looking down the ridge. And next thing I know, I'll see birds come, walking in front of me, and then circle back around up. And it was like, a couple of hens and at least 4 or 5 jakes and a tom. And so the tom was very standoffish. He was back on the. It was weird to see those jakes, they were doing their thing, being jakes, but then looking back, seeing that tom back in behind him, I could see his beard, I could see, it going down. I thought, I was just, please let him step out.
He's sacrificing him, he's like, no.
Yeah, I was like, please let him step up, because
Now, what's your go-to call? What is the call that you cherish the most, that's your one that you think you do the best? Is it
Cody 2. Okay. I call it Moss Lake call, it's a glass call. But I've used that since I was probably 10. And it's just, I've used it since I was 10, so that's one of the best. I know exactly where, I don't have to look at
sweet spots on it.
It's literally like me talking, when I use it, I can turn my striker this way, and I know what's going to happen. I can turn it this way, it's going to happen, and turn the call this way, I'm going to make it do this. And then, it's just using the same call over and over and over and over again. And I don't practice in all season. I disassociate with turkey hunting. I don't like thinking about it. I don't like watching it. It makes me like at the present day, I'm like, no, still in December is all I want to be doing. September is all I want to be doing. There's nothing else. I spend time with my family, my kids and stuff, but if I could just take them in the turkey woods, I probably wouldn't get out of it. So I just pick it up in March and start talking again. That's just like talking to, y'all. But yeah, and then I got a few more that I'll use every now and then, but that's really it. Every now and then, I did lose my striker in Missouri the other day. Or no, I was in Kentucky, I lost it. And I know where I left it, and I'll probably try to find it if I go back through there. I can't do that, but it's closed now. They closed today, or yesterday. But somebody might have found it, but no, I'll change strikers.
So you left it in the woods?
Yeah.
You just go on a hike and go get that bad boy. That's what I could do.
Well, if I hear one in there, I don't know. So we might just find it next year. I have gone back and looked for box calls and stuff I've left in the woods, like way out west and stuff, year or two later, see if I can find them. I want to say I did find one. I knew the trail I left it on, I knew the trail I was sitting on. I doubt anybody had been back that far ever. So I'm like,
it's got to be.
I know where it is, and I think I went back and found it sitting there, like covered. It was just, it was destroyed, but it was. I kicked a bunch of leaves around. I was like, there it is.
That's cool.
That is cool.
You're like me then. I'm one of those type of people. When I buy a call or I do something, I try to master that one thing, and then it becomes second nature to me, right? And especially. Matter of fact, it's funny you say that, because when I was talking to my buddy Ronnie, I said, you know what? I said, this is I can remember the day I bought it. I bought it at Barry's Sporting Goods in Griffin, Georgia, in 1996, and I thought, I'm an idiot. I'm spending this amount of money on this. And it was a night in hell, and it wasn't an expensive one, but you don't see them that much
Right.
anymore, right? And it's small and it fits perfectly, and you carry it in your pocket, and you don't have to worry about it. And it doesn't matter which side you go to, right? It's got the same. Because I always, if I'm calling and I'm pounding it, I always give it a pop at the end.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter which side that you do it. A lot of them won't pop on both sides. They'll only pop on one side. And that one I always thought was the thing. So today when I was talking to Ronnie, I said, you know what? I said, that's what made it even special. I said, this I have this call that I've had since 1996, and I remember getting it with you. He and I had ran there to lunch that day, and I was like, you don't have a box call. And he goes, just get one of the Notting Hill boxes. And you even like this one, I have this up here, this Lynch, and I've had it for years, but I never liked it. It wasn't that it wasn't a good call, it never fit like a glove. It was one of those things you try to do. And it's memories. I mean, we're all the time joking. I tell Stacy, I said, and Landon, who's over here at the stuff, I said, if you come to my house, I have a man cave, right? And then that thing is things hanging up, and my kids go, dude, you're a hoarder. You're a hoarder. You got that stuff hanging in there. It's memories hanging, right? And I said, one day, I won't have that stuff, but somebody else will inherit it, and I hope that they will take the same value that I have and put it on there, because it's the same thing. I think once you do something like that, you're very much that same cloth.
Yeah.
Once you get it, it means a lot to you, and if you lose a part, you'll wear yourself like that striker. I started laughing because it's the same thing. I have this striker for the slate call. I have a Loman slate call that I use, and I have I have a cherry wood striker. And I think if I lost that striker, I don't know if it would ever sound that way. It doesn't, and you can know when it's
season the strikers over. It's hard to get it back, get it back to where it was, but I haven't heard the word Loman in a long time.
Yeah, that thing is older than Methuselah. It's probably, I know it's older than you. I can tell you that. It's like old man
stuff, but that was my dad's stuff he gave to me. I don't remember ever buying anything. But we did have some Loman stuff.
Yeah, it's the stuff, and it wasn't the expensive stuff, because you couldn't afford expensive stuff, so you only took the cheap stuff.
Like the flambeau version.
Yeah. You're trying to hang on with stuff on there, but it's you hold that, and we were like, and I think it's funny because I was telling everybody in the audience, we were giving him a hard time. So he is old school. I do appreciate it, because the stuff that he wears is stuff that I've had for 35 to 40 years, and it's now coming back in style. Everybody's got it. So I played a joke on him this morning. I showed up and I was dressed like the Sitka man on the cover, and I was laughing at it. His wife gets up and she's looking at me, and I said, what does he go think about that? She goes, he ain't gonna like that. And I said, but it's one of those things that's on there, you give him a joke on there, but I said, I think that's cool, because even now, even like the Turtle Box stuff, we talk about it, where they've gone back and they've done stuff that was old is now cool again. So it's kind of a cool thing. And that Bottomlands, you cannot, there is no camouflage.
That's my favorite color. It's always been my favorite color.
And it was always multi-purpose. I mean, that was the other thing. When you do these things, you have the stuff that's on there, because I think that's the other thing. I had told, I forgot what episode we were in. We were talking about it years ago when I worked for a company called Springs, all right? And they were a big textile manufacturer. And before, you guys look at stuff now and you just take it for granted, that who developed that, right? And I was lucky that I worked for a printing side of it, and the guys came in when I remember when Bill Jordan came in and wanted to do Realtree, and it was at Thomaston Mills, and he comes in with a bag of leaves, and he's like, I want y'all to print this. And nobody had ever printed 3D printing stuff like that. And the old Thomaston Mills used to do what was called Rattler brand camo, right? You don't ever see that anymore. It's funny because my wife does vintage shopping, and I was like, oh man, that's all Rattler stuff. But to get the camo on there, and we were laughing because today when I was talking to Ronnie, also, I told him, I said, the only thing that's missing is I don't have my Advantage camouflage. That is my favorite by far, and you just don't see it anymore.
Right. They just started making it again.
I love that. It's a comeback. I've seen it on caps and things like that.
They brought it back like within the past year, I think.
And it's a cool thing. So it's something, but back then people, it isn't like now where you buy, we laugh. Everybody's got, if you duck hunt, deer hunt, everybody has something different. You picked one camo and you wore it, and it was fit everything, right? That was the thing. It didn't matter what you were hunting, it was going to get that same thing across it.
I think camo's kind of like Ford or Chevy, which one I've always loved Mossy Oak from day one, and just
there's some great guys though.
And I think it birthed in Mississippi too, didn't it?
Yeah, that's much fun.
Yeah, I thought. So.
Now you do a lot with those guys too, right?
Yeah, I'm good buddies with Daniel Neal and Mr. Doxey's good at gold. And I was on their podcast last week, I think. And I mean, just stand-up dudes. I mean, and in it for the right reasons and big on conservation, and they do a lot of stuff that folks don't know about. That's just out of the goodness of the heart, and they do a lot of good stuff. And really, I mean, they like to hunt. I mean, they're hunters that happen to figure out the camouflage stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And they care a lot about them. And they care a lot about, you know, taking care of folks.
Yeah, they just did I just bought me and Stacy and Bailey one of the conservation stamps, which I thought was super cool, right?
Yeah.
That the money goes, the proceeds of that, which
And
I think
that stems from the legislative side of it being a pain in the side to get stamps approved. Mississippi's been working on one for 10 years.
right.
And it's been approved for 2 or 3, and they're just now, I think maybe in 2 years they'll be able to do it. So Mossy was like, you know what? We'll sell them as a private organization and just donate them out. You know, like
That's
we'll
awesome.
expedite this real quick. You
Now,
know?
what do they do? Do they do it for everything for conservation side of that with that?
Yeah, and just for turkeys. And that's what the purpose of the stamp. Mississippi stamp is going to be. I mean, its main objective is to get a handle on how many people are turkey hunting. We just sell, big hunting licenses and big game licenses. You
Right.
know, it's just a sportsman's license or a hunting license or a fishing license. That's really it. So
That's cool.
whoever just rabbit hunts also has the same license to carry turkey hunts.
Right.
And we don't have physical tags, and we don't have mandatory reporting with those physical tags. And
So you really don't know how
we don't have
it's
to go hunting them. We don't know what we got. So we're
Right.
trying to base all this research and traject all this population stuff and limit anything we do legislatively is going to be really just guessing. We're like, well, if this is how many we're saying times 2 or 3, well, we'll do times 3 today. And they don't really know.
Yeah.
So the stamp will, if it's required, it will be. That's the main goal. I think is a $5 way to get folks who do turkey hunt.
Right.
Now we know of X, that percentage of X is going to be turkey hunters. So now we have an idea how many we got, and then the I think it'll be more expensive for non-residents, and all the money will go to turkeys in Mississippi. So instead of putting in a big pot that goes to maybe a little bit of little deer, little fire burning on a place that ain't got no turkeys and stuff, it's going to go just to turkey research and
Now, do you get invited to, on a state level to the conservation side of that? Are you?
I've been to some symposiums and stuff, and that's what they'll do is they get a bunch of folks who, kind of know what they're talking about, and can relate, and report back to them what they think and stuff like that. And Adam Butler's our head turkey biologist in Mississippi. He's a turkey hunter, and he's a bona fide turkey hunter, and so he cares a lot about them. He cares a lot about folks who hunt them. And so he does a really good job. He's very, very, very smart and very good at, not jumping the gun, no knee-jerk reactions. He's like, let Alabama figure out if that's a good idea. Give it a year, and if it works for them, we'll do it. But I'm not about to just start, signing everything, just doing it all, all at once. Like, till it's proven that that's going to help or hurt, let's see. And a lot of times, as they're kind of sitting there going, like, well, we shouldn't have done that. He's kind of like, that's why we didn't do that, know. But he got a lot of folks together, and he got like the legislators and stuff like that, like in suit and ties, and he got a ton of game wardens, a ton of folks from the industry and stuff, and Primos got Mississippi got a lot of folks from the industry between Primos and Mossy Oak and Drake and Apex Ammunition and all these folks are from Mississippi, and a lot of folks who spend a lot of time in the woods, and then all got together in a bunch of just agricultural kind of strongholds. A lot of folks own a lot of ag land and stuff that probably have a little influence in how stuff goes.
Right.
And then some just regular Joe Blows, they just pulled some random numbers and invited them, to get just a very broad aspect, and everybody kind of hashed it out in there. And learned a lot. It definitely made steps towards the right direction to get everybody's mind on the same page for a moment at least. But
and I also think that, and I look back to the early days, one of the things that in the area, and I'm going to say this on a local level, we used to do a lot with guys, and we would eat lunch. All of us would, and it seems stupid now, but back in those days, because there was such a lower population, we were trying to figure out how to get the population up, and we were looking at trying to teach people how to do it ethically, right? That you were not just going out there and shooting them and they run off. How do you kill them? Making sure you do, and kind of giving people on there. And I say that from one is it brings a lot of people together, but it also builds the next generation of the good hunters. That's the thing that you're also trying to do.
And that has a lot to do with why Sprintley's came about, because it's very, you go on TikTok or Instagram or YouTube and you type in, they're going to put the best stuff up. They're going to put, it's all centered around killing the animal. They don't show you the stuff that's not killing the animal because that makes them look bad and they waste time. They're not going to waste time editing it and stuff like that. And, So we kind of wanted to, everything's about the hunting side of it and everything, and very open about the failures that come with it. And not only that, but I appreciate those. I would rather not kill a turkey in a way that was a very hard-fought battle than kill a turkey very quickly or easily.
Right.
I don't get much fulfillment out of that. And a lot of folks don't. And a lot of folks don't know that they don't until they do.
Right.
They see, they believe the commercials and infomercials and the propaganda around, like, well, you want to kill one, you got to do this. And you can kill them, and you just got to have a shotgun and still and quiet in your pocket, and you can. You can kill one. You just got to learn them. You're not going to kill one right off the bat like that. Unless you're really lucky, you're not going to kill two probably. But you go in there and learn how turkeys work and learn how they act and stuff. And then you get folks invested emotionally and morally into it. The conservation starts taking care of itself, not with unkilled turkeys, but folks who start caring for turkeys. Some of their best memories are with wild turkeys, and they want to make sure that that's always there. And no matter what needs to be done, they're going to be doing it to make sure that there is turkeys that'll be around for a while.
You're a complex guy. I didn't know all this. And all this time I was just trying to get you in here, man. I'm getting the whole inside here. I'm getting a whole different look at you.
I'm telling you, it's amazing.
365, that's all I think about.
So speaking of what you think about, not to kind of switch it around, but late season tactics, we're in the late season here in Georgia. I think we've got a few more days. And so what advice would you give to turkey hunters in these late season tactics as far as, harvesting a bird? The hens are now, nesting, and they're starting to go back to those bachelor groups, and like kind of what we've seen this morning, and you may still have a tom like we had this morning.
Right.
It's just with one hen, and he's not going to leave her for nothing.
Yeah, and hens are very selective in who they breed with, so it's got, genetically, it's survival of the fittest, but it's like, choice of the fittest. They know who has the best, gene line and stuff like that, and that's who they choose to breed with of the kind of bunch. And, there's always a really old long beard and a really old hen, and that's the hardest ones to kill because they don't really have to do anything. She knows she's going to breed by this tom, and that tom's going to breed that hen, and there's nothing they really need to do.
So she's kind of like one tom hen. Like
there's
one woman.
They don't need anything else. So you're trying to talk them into, upselling them to another one that he doesn't want in the first place. But the first thing to do is look up and see how many leaves are on the trees, and that's going to change a lot of things you do. It's going to muffle your sound, it's going to block sound, it's going to change the trajectory of gobbles, it's going to change the trajectory of calls, depending on your elevation and depending on where the turkeys are at and where they want to be. It's going to change where they roost. Where they roosted 2 weeks ago is not going to be where they roost usually anymore because they can't get up there because of all the leaves. So they got to find an open area or an open road or something like that to get enough oomph under them to fly.
Mm-hmm.
They can't just hop up like they were in the open season a lot of times. And then the understory, if it's very tall with broad leaves, stuff growing under it, they don't like landing in stuff they can't see. They're not going to just hope that the ground under there, so they're going to land on dirt that they can see from the limbs. So they're going to roost above it, and their patterns change, their objective change. It goes back to living instead of breeding. They don't really eat when they're peak breeding and stuff. And gobbling is a direct derivative of the energy in their fat pads stored from winter. So we have a mass crop that kind of flops, which we did. I don't know if y'all did, Mississippi did, so it was kind of tough on gobbling wise. It does affect, I think they run out of energy. They're very selective in how much they use, during the spring. They try to make sure it lasts all year. And they're going back to finding more, which if they're one anchors in October, November, there's none in the little ravines and stuff now where I used to go find them in ravines where the last few have washed to. That's where you find turkeys, but even now there's not. But yeah, you'll get a couple gobbles on the limb. Sometimes they'll blow out the water on the limb, but you're lucky to you'll get one on the ground. They let them know, and then one hen is enough. They're kind of exhausted, and it's hard to hear them. There's a catch-22. Are they not responding, or can you not hear them? Because both could be true, and only one could be true. It's just a matter of which one. Because if they move 30 yards, sometimes that's enough to put enough foliage between you where you don't hear them no more. So you gotta be patient, but you gotta understand you're trying to do a lot by killing one in late season a lot of times. But if you can find them areas where they are open and they want to be, catch them on the right day. It's pretty good. Like today would have been a good one. Tomorrow's gonna be a good one.
Well, we even talked about it this morning. That was we were all talking about how doing based on the weather this weekend. I think that was another big factor, right? We had bad torrential rains that came in. Normally, they're always going to hit the fields, but at the same time, I think it's thrown them kind of in a loop because they are out of their normal pattern, right? Because of the rain, they're trying to also shelter at the same time. So today, that was my logic. I said I knew they were going deep. I was going to go shallow.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to trying to figure out where they're at.
Figure out where.
That's the crazy part.
And then I was probably wanted you to shoot one. I was like, that'd be so funny. We got all the way up here, and he just right where we started didn't move, and more just walked by.
Listen, that's what happened to me in that same place.
What happened?
It was opening morning for public, and I called Vince, who lives there at the house where we parked at this morning, and I said, "Hey man, I'm gonna hunt in the morning. You gonna be out there?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "If I'm out there," he said, "then I'll go with you. If I'm not, just leave me alone. Don't wake me up." And so I get to his house, and he's still in the bed. So I just take off up that ridge where you went this morning, up that trail, and I get up to the very top of that ridge where we had sat down this morning, and I'm sitting there like 10 minutes. All of a sudden, boom! I was like, dude, that's close.
Yeah.
I get a text, and it says, "Where you at?" And I said, "On this ridge." He said, "I got one." I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Dude," he said, "I got up and make some coffee, and I looked out my window." He said there was a strutter with some hens out there, not even 20 yards from my back porch.
That's crazy.
And he walks out with his 20 gauge pajamas on and takes it. And I got a friend who's with Turkeys for Tomorrow, and it made him so mad. He's like, "That's not the right way to hunt them." I was like, "Dude, like you said, there's days that they beat you up. And you wish you could just walk out there and harvest one." And so that was his first ever turkey. Like,
really?
He never harvested a turkey ever.
I think I'm like Hunter though. I like the ones that are the challenge because it's like
Me
playing
too.
chess.
Yeah.
If you like to play chess, it's a chess game, right? And you know that you're playing with something that's as seasoned as any big deer.
Yeah.
It's super smart. He's in your head. You're trying to get in his head. You're waiting for who makes the worst mistake, right? It's sometimes it's a game of wheels there to set it up, and then you get attacked by the deer. I think that was your whole day. The deer attack today was on there.
That was crazy.
You probably sit him in there and said, "Hey, he ain't moving, man. Go down there and bite him. I'd go down there and bite him. He ain't gonna move."
There's an ecosystem up in there that they all come in and I understand. They're like, I got you. That turkey probably saved that deer some way or another in October this past year.
It's a payback.
Yeah, he's like, I got you. Hold on.
Yeah, I need you to go in for me. I need you to take one for the team.
Just bite him or something.
Yeah.
Just walk up to
You
him.
remember when I flew off the roost?
Right.
My question is for you guys. So, what's y'all's plan tomorrow? Y'all gonna try to go back tomorrow and get up tomorrow, or have you got something else you're gonna do, or?
Well, I know I've got pictures of one that a lady sent me, and I was telling Hunter about it. It's one that me and my son, my birthday was Friday, turned 50, and so I went down.
Half a century. You're half a century.
Yeah, for years I've harvested the bird on my birthday for years, and so.
You got one on Good Friday. What more are you complaining about?
Oh, I got it. Listen, I took that bird straight to the tax.
He did. I didn't even get to see it.
It was a double beard. I mean, on public, and my uncle who taught me how to turkey when I was 19 passed away this year, and so I got all of his old stuff that was given to me by his family, and so I took his old box call and I hit it one time. That bird cut me off, and so I sat down. And he came to me like on the road, and so I shot him. And it was just one of those. I was like, I've got to get this thing.
That's cool.
And so I took it to my taxidermy, and so but that was that morning. But being 10 minutes late, man, that's what I tell people, man, you got to get there on time. You got to be on. And I was telling my son, I was like, we got to go, man. We're going.
Well, he and I had planned on. We were supposed to go and go on Good Friday. We had planned on going, and then the night before, the guy that was going to take us, the things falling. So the plans were already up in the air.
Right.
And Stacy's like, man, I don't even know. I'm just going to go, and it's one of those things.
What was crazy is like I'm like you. I can't sleep during turkey season. I mean, I cannot sleep, and so I woke up like at 4:30 that morning. I thought I had to speak at an FCA event, and so I was looking at my calendar. I was like, oh, those days are mixed up. I ain't got to do that till about 2 more weeks, and so I was okay. I had that, you get that gut feeling like you better be in the woods.
Yeah.
I had that gut feeling, and I was like, let's just go and see what happens. And sure enough, man, that's what happened that morning, and. It's one of those hunts that I won't ever forget. you know, I've had, you know, like I said, my very first hunt with him was on Johns Mountain. He loved Johns Mountain. He harvested so many birds on Johns Mountain, my uncle did. And so my very first hunt with him was like I was 19, and I harvested my first bird with him, and just, you know, him behind me just.
You know, he was smiling like a Cheshire.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Dude, I jumped like 10 feet in the air. Because you know how it is. I don't care how many turkeys you harvest. It's like the first one.
Right.
It really was
like the first one.
I told my wife, I said, because the bird kind of, you know, went into that alert stance, he got near me.
Yeah.
And I thought, I got to pop him now. He's going to get out of here. And so he went into that alert stance, and I popped him. But I told my wife, I said, I'm convinced that he's seen my chest, my heart beating down my chest. Because, I mean, it was just pounding like it was for the first time. And I've harvested, on my little I got a Mossberg that I got when I was 19 that I still use. I didn't have it this morning, but I think I got 30-something check-offs on it that I've shot with that gun. Not counting the 410 I've shot with and the 20 gauge I've shot with. And so, but I told him, I said, if I ever lose that feeling, you know, and then that desire, like you said, like, I mean, I'm not sitting here listening to Hunter. I'm like, I got to up my game because
I don't wish it on anybody. It's not cool.
It's almost like
I don't
like
it. Yeah, I don't. I mean, I don't call people into them.
And let me give you a plug. Give a plug for his. If you'll go to his YouTube, he has an amazing podcast that I listen to all the time because of just the information you gave in our little short podcast here. You give that all the time. I mean, it's like going to school for turkey hunters when you listen to Hunter's podcast and the different scenarios and like you said, all the science that goes into turkeys and turkey hunting and stuff, and he's just full of that. I mean, it's good stuff. And
you got to start vibrating. I tell everybody it's a vibration. That's what I've got this analogy. I told somebody the other day. I don't know if you feel it's kind of the same thing. If people aren't at your level of vibrating, right? It's a frequency that you start putting out. Then you can't. I can't be around.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. I think it's when you find your passion in life. It's a passion thing. It crosses over that's who you are. That's who you become. And anything that doesn't either get in resonance with that, then it starts to bring that vibration down. And you got to say, dude, I love you, and you know, I just can't be around you right now during this time. It's like what you were talking about. You get in this slump, but the slump is because you know that vibration, right? You got to get to that next level.
Which, I mean, you think of like major league, you know, hitters and stuff, and I mean, it's hard to fathom, you know, Derek Jeter going through slumps. You know, like you're supposed to be really good at this, but I'm like, I expect them. And that's what I tell folks, you just got to be out there in the tide track. Because it's going to turn. Yeah. It's going to go back. You know, if you ain't there, you ain't going to get it. Yeah. You know, you just got to be there.
You know, saying that gives people like me hope, or you know, us, you know, like my son who's 14-year-old who is an inspired ball player who loves baseball. Yeah. And when you tell him, even though he's going through that slump, you're like, hey man, you know, some of the greatest players of all time went through that slump. And then to hear another hunter who says, I went through that. So I love, you know what I love watching on YouTube? I love watching Michael Waddell and all them miss turkeys. I love it. I love watching those guys that, you know, because it makes me think, okay, you know, if they miss, I mean, I'm bound to miss, you know, and if you've not missed a turkey, you've not hunted turkeys. I've missed, you know, I was in a slump. I just missed like 3 in a row one year. I was like, that's insane. Like
it's made out of Kevlar. That's what you gotta do.
And I was like, God's trying to humble me, man. God's trying to get. I mean, I'd stay up at night talking to God, like, God, what's going on? You mad at me? I mean, I've never missed a turkey. Then all of a sudden, I missed like 3 in a row.
Away from New Orleans. I was like, maybe that's a problem. Get out of this. Too much thin around.
Yeah, that's that voodoo. That's what you're saying.
I brought it with me though.
Yeah.
And but no, it'll have you question. I've changed deodorants and everything, and I mean all kinds of stuff over there.
I've showered for a few days.
I know. I do that anyway. I do that. That was good. That's good. Like, the only thing's been on my mind the past 2 days, like I washed my gloves, and I'm thinking that might have been it. I'm very superstitious about stuff like that, and a lot of times I'll halfway through the season I'll wash my gloves and face mask, but sometimes if I don't pick up where I left off, I'm like, that was it.
I was wondering why you were backing around that truck this morning in opposite circles. So
I'm going to get these. I went there around his bag.
I was so nervous that Hunter and Peyton was going to smell me. I was like, man, I know this. I know my clothes stink. and I showed Hunter. I said, look at the back seat of my truck from duck season to turkey season is just horrible. My wife, she's like, I can't believe that truck looks like that. and it's like it's just gear, just pile on gear, you know.
I'm in the back seat.
And so then I looked at his back seat, and he don't have one. He's just got these big tubs back
There's
there.
all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, half of it's just living stuff, and you know, which our podcast equipment is way bigger than this. I got to find one small that I can tote around, which ain't done me no good. I ain't done one since I got on the road. Just go around, but yeah, we got a big tub and all kinds of I mean, I could literally. I do live for a week at a time, usually without seeing another human for a few months out of the year, week by week, in the middle of nowhere, and I did have a tire screw into it. That was kind of hairy out there, but I did have a tire plug kit. And luckily somebody...
Did you post that? I seen somebody.
Yeah.
I think I seen that on your...
I do. And I keep a lot of stuff for stuff like, air compressor that plugs into your cigarette lighter, stuff like that. And a lot of just in cases have come in very handy on the road. But I'm excited to get back on it. It's been, hunting around home's one thing, and then I kind of take a break and spend time with family and stuff, and I go on the road, and then I go through the slump. Usually it's around when I go through Tennessee is when I'm going through the slump, and I'm like, all right, I'm going over here, and well, after over 8 hours, still be in a slump. Like, you can't change it. You can't get out of it. It's just a time thing, and you just got to be there. And when it turns, and smooth sailing there. But I'm optimistic that it ain't far, because usually it don't last too terribly long. You just got to reset your mind, and you need one good chip to fall the right way, and then you're back in stride, and everything's rolling again.
No, I believe it, 100%. That was me. Like I said, I think that was the reason I got so excited about that double bearded bird on Good Friday, because I'd been in a slump, just not seeing birds, not hearing birds, losing farms that I had for years that held tons of birds. And I was like, man, then you go up public land, places that like last year I was on public land opening day for public, and this kid was out there, and he pulled him right beside me, and so he was super nice, and he's like, man, I ain't never killed a bird. He said, can I hunt with you? And I'm like, God, dude, I was like, yeah. And so I call this bird I've been watching. I've been watching this bird. He was a hawk too. He was almost 1.5 inch spurs. This is a public land bird, 11-inch beard. And so I called that bird into that boy, and he killed it right. It was textbook. I set him up. I knew where to sit. I knew where he was going to be. I knew where. He came on a road just right to us, and that boy was so tickled. Like, he hugged me like 10. I didn't know who the kid was.
Yeah.
He hugged me like 10 times and was crying and stuff. And I was like, well, I guess that's worth it,
Yeah,
And I was like, dang, but I wanted that bird so bad. And still to this day, I wake up and I'm like, God, I'm sorry. Because I just get pissed at myself. I'm like, I should have shot that. Because I watched this bird for weeks before the season opened. And I learned everything about him.
Yeah.
And this boy pulls up and he's like, yeah, I've been watching that same bird. I was like, no, you haven't. No, you haven't. I've been here.
I've seen you.
Yeah, I said, I've been here every day. You have not been. He said, yeah, I've been. I said, no. So anyway, he's like, well, can I hunt with you? And I was like, yeah, let's go. But Hunter, it's been a privilege, man. Thank you so much. You were one of the top ones I wanted to get on our podcast, and I told Scott early on, I said, we've got to get Hunter. And so we've got connections to you because your mother-in-law works with us. And so,
we figure that you can't say no, because she'll be on you like white on rice.
You can say no, but it don't matter.
and here's the funny thing: my boys are kin to Hunter through marriage, and so the Smiths, and so that's their claim to fame. They tell all their friends, like, yeah, we're kin to him. And so I was like, dude, y'all bought those clothes. He didn't give those to you.
Yeah.
And so
I got him some more of the truck.
And so, but they're always like, that's my cousin, man.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, wow. Anything else, Scott?
No, man, I really do appreciate you coming. I'm sorry we didn't get anything, but hey, that'll give you an excuse to come back next year. We'll set the bar higher.
Yeah.
By then, I will have perfected. I'll be back. I won't be in the cobwebs. I'll be able to serenade them really good by then.
Come sit where you sat.
You just come on, sit down there, and you can bump me when I was asleep down there. You just wake me up when you come between them.
Well, I just knew that field. I've watched enough of Hunter's videos on YouTube. That field was not where Hunter wanted to be.
No.
I just knew. I've watched him in the woods too many times. Chasing birds. I said he's not going to want to sit in the field, and hopeful. Like he said, one first thing he said this morning, he said you got to close that 90-yard gap.
Yeah, you got to eliminate
And he said you
it.
got to eliminate that 90-yard gap. And I was like, that's true. I said that's so true.
Best way to.
But thank you
Solve
again for
problems.
coming, man. I really appreciate it, and I know our listeners appreciate you coming. So we look forward to the next time we see you again.
Yeah, and so if you want to find Hunter, he's on all social media platforms.
Yeah.
You're on Instagram, Spring Legion. You got now. What is your podcast? Is it on all platforms?
It's on all platforms. Spring Legion Podcast. It's Apple, iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, Google.
Podbean.
Yeah, go out there and buy a shirt, hat.
So I
camo.
would really buy the book. The book, I don't know if there's. I mean, the books are amazing, especially for any young guy listening to it today. Go buy the book, and his line of apparel and his line of hunting apparel is just top notch, just the best. It really is, and so he's
Help a brother out. Isn't
he's
that right?
thought a lot about
Yeah.
and I'm hoping that we'll see a Spring Legion vest.
Shirt.
No vest.
I want to see a shirt with that deer on it. That's what I want. So it's got to be. I will buy like 5 of those just to give away. I'm gonna have you
Listen,
sign them and give them away.
I think me and you can take the pictures that I took of him, the video.
Oh, that
Yeah.
is hilarious.
And we can
Oh,
screenshot that.
if I send it to you, I'm going to send it to you, and then you can put it on your shirt, and then,
Yeah.
and then you just have to promise me that I get like 4 or 5 of them, because that'll be the thing.
Hey, I know how to,
Hey,
how to do it.
that you have already made an impression and a memory that I will never let you live down. Now that's the thing. It'll be one of those things. It's just one of those cool experiences. So thank you, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate
So
it.
tune in next time.
Yes, and don't forget to like and subscribe to our call podcast and catch us on YouTube.
Thank you. Bye.